This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. And welcome everybody to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. It's me, John Allen, and today I am solo and unscripted for this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. It's been a while since I've been solo. It's been quite a while. That's actually quite unintentional. I had the solo Saturday thing going, but hey, we're living life. We make changes. It's the ebb and flow of life. Things change. I got into a situation where, and actually it was a position of luxury where I had so many guests lined up that the solo Saturday thing it actually kind of got in the way of some of those episodes. I have my Tiffy Tuesday series with my good friend Tiffany Troutman. Now that's been put on pause for a little while. She's got that education, that edumacation thing to do. So she's a little bit busy for the last couple of weeks and for another couple of weeks to come. But Tiffy Tuesday will be back. So for now, today, it's just me. Listen closely, if you would, please. I want to talk about something it's on the serious side of things. I want to talk about Election Day back home in the United States. Wow, what a crazy situation. It's a weird situation to be in. And a lot of other expats can identify with this. You're an American citizen, you're living in another country, and you're taking part in the election in that you can vote. I did vote from here in Norway. I did my mail-in ballot. And so you're participating, but at the same time, you feel so removed from the whole process. Now, there's some people that are looking at this as just another election, but for some of us, this is quite a serious and sobering event in our lives. For me, this is the election that I have been engaged in and focused on and preoccupied by, more so than for any other election in my life. This is an important time. I think it is. I think a lot of other Americans would agree with me. Joe Biden puts it quite clearly. It is an election for the soul of America. I don't care which side you're on. You vote for whoever you'd like to vote for. But I think that any patriotic American, regardless of Democrat or Republican or independent, I believe that every conscious and thinking American voter knows that something is wrong in our country right now. If you support Trump, you're on that Trump train and you think everything he's doing is great, that's fine. But don't you see this air of division that's in our country? Don't you see that? I think you do. Some people will try to ignore that. Make America great again. In other words, they think America is doing just fine, or they'll say outwardly that they think America is doing just fine right now. But do you really think America is doing just fine right now? Have you ever seen this much division in the United States? And what gets me is this thing about hatred. You'll see people online. Oh, I hate Joe Biden. I hate Donald Trump. If you're on the MAGA train, you're just an idiot. Oh, you're a libtard and you don't know what's best for yourself. Where did that come from? What happened? What happened to the good old days where if you wanted to vote for Ronald Reagan, you voted for Ronald Reagan, but you didn't have anything ugly to say about Jimmy Carter or his supporters, the people who voted for Jimmy Carter. You didn't have anything ugly to say about them. They were just on the other side of the political spectrum. There was no sense of them being less American than you, less patriotic, less smart. We were on equal footing when it came to our Americanness, if I can use the air quotes on that word. We were all Americans. We were just on different sides of the political spectrum, but that spectrum was not as broad as, there wasn't this gulf between Democrat and Republican back then. It wasn't that way for the Carter-Reagan election. It wasn't that way for the Clinton-Bush election. It was that way to a certain extent for the Bush II election, the first election with him in 2000. The gulf was even wider when President Obama ran for his two elections, and now it's just out of control. It's almost like there's two different countries. What is that all about? Where did that come from? I have my thoughts on that. I think it would be a waste of time to go through that here on this podcast episode. I don't think anybody wants to hear that. This thing has been analyzed up and down, back and forth, round and around. You can get that on you can get that on other political podcasts. I don't look at my podcast as a political podcast. I'm talking about politics in this episode, but I do not have a political podcast. I'm not a political pundit. I'm just a halfway intelligent, fairly intelligent American voter. I consider myself an educated voter. I consider myself a thinking American voter. So for those of you on the right, you can take your sheep business and just what you can do with that. You're not gonna capture me and put me in a cage with that kind of rhetoric. Again, what happened to this thing? How did we get here to where just because another American disagrees with your political stance that you have to resort to the name calling? You're a sheep, you're a libtard, you're this, you're that, and the other. But I will say this. I remember when Hillary Clinton took her criticism when she made the statement that Trump supporters are a basket of deplorables. I remember I cringed when she said that. I did not think that was going to win her any votes. I think that was a mistake, a very clear mistake that she made when she made that statement. You don't want to just take the political opposition and sweep them up into a dustpan and throw them in the garbage like that. I don't think that won her any votes. But on the same line of thinking, I don't think that Trump, over the last 4 years, has gained any supporters by consistently making it very clear that he has no interest in being the president of the United States. He has interest in being the president of the political right. And again, support the man if you will, but just listen to what he says himself. He's consistently getting into this. He's setting foot on this very. It's like a pasture full of cow poop, and he's willfully stepping in every pile that he can. He takes every opportunity. He has taken every opportunity that he could for the last 4 years to make it very clear his views on the so-called blue states. If you are a state in the United States of America that leans blue or is blue, and if you are a voter who does not support him, it's pretty obvious from his own rhetoric that he has no use for you as a so-called blue voter or as a so-called blue state. That is not American. Never before in my life have I heard a president of the United States take that type of a stance. I've never heard that before. Never. Again, support the man if you will. That's your choice as an American. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to vote. I guess I'm just getting this off my chest. I'm making my statement. We all have a right as an American citizen to make our statements about how we feel in this political climate in which we live. That's our right to say that. don't hate me for it. If you don't like it, you won't listen to this. Maybe you'll start your own podcasts and you have CNN and you have Fox News. Maybe you'll have the Coming Home podcast with John Allen and the Leaving Home podcast with Joe, the Trump supporter. I don't know, make your decisions, say what you want, believe what you want to believe, but don't shut down the dialogue. I had a podcast episode a couple days ago with England Brooks, and we talked about that whole thing about dialogue, about discussion. I miss those days where you could sit across from someone who had a little bit, or maybe a drastically different view than what you have, but you would still be able to talk. That word hatred, that concept of hatred for the opposite political party it's too prevalent in our nation today. I hear this a lot. A lot of Trump supporters will say, you hate Donald Trump. I don't hate the man. To be honest, I feel sorry for him. I pity that guy. He's. Yeah, you can make the argument that he's a narcissist. You can make the argument that he's egotistical, and maybe he is both of those things and then some. But I sense a sort of desperation in that man's actions. Could it be because of the legal, this mountain of legal things that he's going to have to face eventually? Could it be because of the this $500 million in debt that this man has to pay, and he wants the office of the President of the United States to be his suit of armor, if you will, to protect him? That argument could be made. That argument could be made. The day he is no longer president, he is then open for prosecution for a certain number of crimes on the state level. And again, these are things that are facts. This isn't conspiracy theory. This isn't my opinion. These are facts. Look it up yourself. Please, if you are on the political right, if you're a Donald Trump supporter, when you hear a so-called liberal, and I say so-called liberal, such as myself, say these kind of things, don't just shout it down and say it's a libtard excuse, because it's not that. It's facts. This man has a few crimes that are, or a few accusations of crimes, a few court cases that are stacked up and waiting. We have this tradition, and I say it's a tradition because it's not a law, but it is a tradition, an opinion. It's also an opinion of certain political figures and certain legal figures that the President of the United States cannot be indicted for a crime. Okay. Let that fact stand as it is. But it is also a fact that when this man no longer is president, then the doors open for these cases to proceed against him. And he will then be held accountable for a few things. That doesn't mean he will be convicted, but he will certainly be held accountable. The justice system will certainly begin to bring their cases before this man. So that's why I say I sense a certain desperation in him. Some people will say he's crazy. He says these things because he's crazy. I'm not a psychologist. Personally, I don't think he's crazy. He may have some narcissistic leanings, and that is my uneducated opinion. But I don't think he's crazy. I think he's doing the things he's doing in a very calculated manner. Kind of stretching himself and putting himself out there to do what he can to keep the presidency around him for at least the next 4 years, so that he can avoid a few issues that he's going to have to deal with, a few legal issues and financial issues that he's going to have to deal with eventually. But as long as he's president, he is protected. He can put these things on hold. Again, it's my opinion that he has this desperation around him, but these things that I'm naming, these legal issues, these financial issues, that's fact. If you don't believe it, please, I challenge you, I ask you to please look it up. Know your candidate. Don't vote for Joe Biden because of what you've heard. Vote for Joe Biden because of what you know and feel as a voter. Don't vote for Donald Trump because of how you feel. Oh my gosh, I love that he is tough. I love that he really sticks it to the libtards. Don't be that kind of a uneducated and ignorant voter. Don't be that guy or lady. Educate yourself, get your facts, get it done. By the time this episode is released in about another hour, it'll be 3:34 p.m. on the East Coast here on Election Day. So I don't know. There might be some undecided voters out there. I don't think I'm going to change anyone's mind. But I do hope that the people who are listening to this at least will ponder over some of these things that I'm mentioning. Think about some of the things that I'm saying. Okay? So that's what I wanted to say specifically about Donald Trump. As you guys know, my longtime listeners to my podcast, this is not a political podcast. You could say this is a political episode, but I do not have a political podcast. Yes, when I speak with some of my guests, because of the way I like to have my discussions, we talk about what's going on in people's lives. So some of my guests have been, they've had some things to say. Or some questions to ask about the current election. So yes, from time to time on episodes, we do talk about the election. People have given their opinions on Donald Trump. But above and beyond that, this is not a political podcast. And having said that, let's talk about a little bit of politics. I was actually going to do this episode yesterday, Monday, November 2nd. But I chose to wait because I was watching television and looking around online, and I saw there were so many cases that were brought up. If I read correctly, there are around 40 different cases that have been brought to the courts by the GOP, the grand old party. Those Republicans have brought around 40 cases to the courts, and every single case has been focused on, let's just call it what it is, voter suppression. Voter suppression. These cases have been brought to the courts in order to keep people from voting, or to cancel out votes that have already been made, or to make things difficult for people to vote, or to erase certain measures that have been put into place to make things easier for people to vote. That's pretty un-American. That is pretty undemocratic. And I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about undemocratic. It goes against the principles of a modern democracy. It goes directly against the principles of the United States. People have a right to vote, but these cases that have been brought to the courts have been brought in order to hinder people's ability to vote, to take away their votes that they have already placed, or to take away measures that have been put in place to make it easier for people to vote. What are you talking about, John Allen? You may ask. Well, let me tell you. There was a case that the Republicans brought to whatever that county is. It called Las Vegas County? I don't know, but it's in Las Vegas. There was a judge who denied a Republican effort to stop the counting of early votes. Why would the Republican Party want to stop the counting of early votes in Las Vegas? I'll just let that question hang and you guys think about it. So that case was brought before a judge, and the judge denied the Republican effort to stop early vote counting in Las Vegas. Here's an interesting thing. If you guys go back a couple of months, there was a lot of talk all throughout the news media about how the president and the Republican Party were doing things to make the United States Postal Service function less optimally than it should. They were doing things like denying the payment of overtime so that postal employees would be able to work overtime in order to process all of these mail-in votes. Why would the president and the Republican Party want that to happen? Why would they put in measures to deny funding of overtime for the U.S. Postal Service at a time when the Postal Service needs to fund overtime because of this influx of mail-in ballots? You know, they are in large numbers processed by the United States Postal Service. They need money to do that. Why would the president and the Republican Party not want that to happen? Well, they also put in measures to remove mail sorting equipment or machines. They took them away. They took them offline, thereby making it much more difficult for postal districts or postal locations, whatever you call that, the places where they sort mail, making it more difficult for them to do that. And again, this was a month or two ago, a couple months ago, in the lead up to all of this early mail-in, these early mail-in ballots. Why would the president and the Republican Party be interested in taking away mail sorting machines? Why? I'll just let that question hang there and you think about it. So the fact is, regardless of how you feel about it, the fact is that these things were done. Things were put in place by the president and by the Republican Party to make things difficult, to make the United States Postal Service function at a much less efficient manner. Crazy. Interesting. A lot of people a couple of months ago were wondering why was this happening? Why was the president doing that? Well, let's fast forward to today. The fact is, today, the information has come out that for the fifth day in a row, ballots in Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, New Hampshire, and Maine are being processed slower than they were the day before. And I'm talking about ballots that are coming through the United States postal system. Each day it has been measured for the last 5 days that each day these ballots are being processed slower than they were the day before. So it's been getting progressively less efficient, progressively inefficient in the Postal Service over the last 5 days. So now a federal judge has said that the United States Postal Service has to sweep through their underperforming postal zones for ballots. They have to go and dig through the mail, dig through the Christmas card that has to be sent 2 months ahead of time from Norway to Kent, Ohio, to a certain podcaster's family, daughter and grandkids, so that they get their Christmas card on time. They got to sweep through those Christmas cards. They have to sweep through and pluck out, set all of those things aside, Christmas cards and regular mail. Set it aside and find ballots that have been mailed in. And get those ballots to where they are supposed to go. And they have to do that by 3 p.m. today. Now, at the time of recording this podcast episode, I'm going to upload it as soon as I'm finished. But right now, it's 3:21 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. I could take the time right now as I speak and go online and see if I can find out if they have actually done what they're supposed to do. But again, that federal judge has said that the United States Postal Service now has to pluck out, find these, do a sweep through each postal location, each postal zone, find ballots that have been sent in and get them processed immediately and get them sent to where they are supposed to go. And they have to do it by 3 p.m. today. And the bosses, the top dogs, the fat cats at the United States Postal Service are being held accountable. They have to do this, according to this federal judge. Now, why am I pointing out this particular instance? It's because in all of this chaos and all of this, and it's manufactured chaos. Again, the president and the Republican Party have made a very clear and conscious effort to create chaos in the United States Postal Service. And I let that question hang as to why they did it. Well, we see why they did it. They wanted things to work less efficiently. They wanted chaos in the United States Postal Service. They didn't want it to work the way it was supposed to because they wanted to suppress the vote. Here's another fact for you guys. The less people that vote, the more beneficial it is to the Republican Party. Fact. Just Google it. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. Google it. The president, among other top Republicans, have actually said this themselves, that the more people who vote, the worse things are for us as Republicans. That's not my opinion. I didn't say that. I'm repeating what the president and other top Republicans have said themselves. The less people that vote, did I say this correctly earlier? What I'm trying to say is that Republicans feel that, and statistics also show, history shows that the less people who vote, the better it is for Republicans. The more people who vote, the worse it is for Republicans. So you mess with the U.S. Postal Service, you throw a monkey wrench in that process there, so that ballots don't get where they're supposed to, which means that that is a suppression of the vote. Let's call it what it is. It's voter suppression, and it's quite intentional. And it is not democratic. It is not an American value to suppress the vote. It's an American custom to suppress the vote. Know your history, people. It's an American custom to suppress the vote. But unfortunately, if you want to stick to the true principles of what America is supposed to stand for, voter suppression is not American. So why do the Republicans want to do it? Because things go better for them. And that tells me something. I'm not going to try and tell you what it should tell you, but I'll tell you what it tells me. It tells me that the Republican Party of today, the leadership of the Republican Party, because I know there's some good people out there who are Republican voters. I know some of them. But the leadership of the Republican Party, from the president on down, there are enough of them who would rather commit an un-American atrocity. I'll call it what it is. It's an un-American atrocity to suppress the vote. Isn't America supposed to be the leading democracy of the world? Aren't we the nation that people are supposed to look to for what is right, and to look to us for what it means to be a just and an honorable nation? Well, where's the justice and where's the honor in doing what you can to keep people from being able to vote? So that's it's just an ugly thing to have happen. But the reason why I bring up this instance, this example, is because I also see a certain beauty in the American system. Where is the beauty, you may ask? Here's the beauty. The beauty is that in the face of such an un-American and undemocratic action, this attempt to suppress the vote, the judicial system has stepped forward and put in place a pretty effective measure to hinder, to stop, to fix that issue of voter suppression. This federal judge has said that the United States Postal Service must go in and pluck out these ballots and get them where they're supposed to be, and they've got to do it by 3 p.m. today. Again, check this out, people. It's online. You may not see it on Fox News or Breitbart, but it's there online. Get a different news source. That's another thing. If you want to watch Fox News, watch Fox News. But why would you take that, as they say here in Norway, why would you take that as good fish? Why would you accept that? Isn't that a weird saying? These Norwegians take it as good fish. But why would you just accept that at face value and not actively try to find a different viewpoint that is the contrast of what you heard on that news source. I watch CNN, I watch Norwegian news. I'll listen to Fox News to hear what they're saying. Personally, I think they're a bunch of loonies over there, but I still go in and listen to what they say because, it's just healthy to do that. It's healthy to keep your mind as broad as possible when it comes to the gathering of information. Broaden your sources. Excuse me, I had to take a little drink of water there. Get your news, get your information from several sources. The more sources you have, the more informed you will be. And the more informed you will be, the more democratic your actions will be. The more informed and the more intelligent your vote will be. So I see a beauty in there. I don't know, am I naive to believe in the American system, this American system that has given birth to this polarized nation that we have? Yeah, I guess you can call me naive, but to me, there's something beautiful in that process, in that the judicial system stepped forward and did what it had to do to try and negate that rather disgusting effort at voter suppression. You guys want another instance of voter suppression? Maybe not, but here it comes anyway. Texas. Around Houston, they had 10 drive-through voting locations so that people would be able to vote easier, that it would be a more effective thing. They were seeing large numbers of early voting in Texas. They set records. Good Lord. Before, what was it? As of 3 days ago, I believe they said that they had already surpassed the number of total votes for the 2016 election. So the early voting in Texas had already surpassed the total number of votes in the 2016 election. That is a shining example of American democracy and engagement right there. That's a lot of votes. So to make things easier because of the large numbers and also because of the corona situation, that's a whole nother issue, but the corona situation is there. Whether you believe it's a hoax or not, it's still a situation that is very present in America right now. But in order to deal with that, they wanted to make it easier for people to vote. So they set up these tents where you could just drive through. They give you some sort of an iPad type of thing, and you do your voting as you sit in your car. Great idea, one would think. Bad idea, said the Republican Party of Texas. They thought that was bad. What did they do? They took it to the courts. The Texas State Supreme Court, which was an all-Republican panel of judges, by the way, said that there's nothing wrong with having these tents where people can drive through. They shot down the Republican attempt to get rid of those tents. So the case was also taken up to the federal level. There was a federal district judge who had the case, and if my understanding is correct, he denied to hear the case. And he wrote in his statement that it could possibly, he didn't say it is, but it could possibly be considered illegal, and that the Texas state, I don't know if it's the state constitution or is it the electoral commission for the state of Texas, says that you can have alternate polling places, also alternate places to vote, as long as it is in a building or structure. But he said that the legal argument could be brought up that these tents are not a building or structure. In other words, if the Republicans wanted to be real jerks, they could say, hey, this is not legal because it's in a tent instead of in a brick and mortar building. But anyway, this federal judge did not clearly state that they were illegal. He said that it could be argued that they are not legal. So what the county electoral commissioner in that area around Houston has done now is he has made the decision to take away 9. And by the way, we were talking about around 127,000 votes that could have potentially been crossed out if the Republicans would have won their court case and if it would have been found that these voting locations were illegal. 127,000 votes. So now the local voting authorities have said they will take away 9 out of 10 of these tents, of these drive-through locations. And the one location that they have remaining, if I understood it correctly, they have moved it to a basketball stadium, a basketball arena, rather. So there you go. It is a brick and mortar building, which is very clear. It's very clearly in line with the state regulations, which state that these alternate voting places must be in a building or structure. If you ask me, a tent is a structure. Okay, whatever. Well, this basketball arena is a structure, so they have this in place to continue with an alternate polling place, an alternate place to vote. And the reason he took away the other 9 is because he is anticipating a Republican appeal, maybe up to the United States Supreme Court. And think about that. If they go to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court says, hey, these 10 polling places are illegal, these votes cannot count, it's probably, I think it is a smart decision that the local voting authority has preemptively shut down 9 of those locations, anticipating a possible appeal by the Republican Party. That means that if they decide only one place is illegal as opposed to 10 places is illegal, then they are hopefully setting it up so that there are fewer votes that will be taken out of the pot. So again, another act or another effort at voter suppression by the Republican Party. Why are they doing it? Well, again, historically and from their own mouths, from the president's own mouth, the more people who vote, the worse it is for the Republican Party. I just think it's sad. But again, there's a beauty in place because the judicial system did come and do its job, and it shut down that attempt at voter suppression. Or did it really? Because in the end, they chose to take down 9 of these extra polling places. Excuse me, I need another drink of water here. Unscripted and unedited. Yeah, so it's crazy. I'm going to be awake all night. You know, I say that now, but I may end up dozing off, snoring and drooling on myself on the couch. But I'm going to stay awake. I'm going to follow the election. I am very, very much engaged in this process this time around. Like I said, this is the presidential election that has meant the most to me. I think Joe Biden is right. There is this is a referendum on the soul of the United States. This is a referendum on the direction of the United States. You know, I saw something, and let me say this also, before you guys label me as some kind of left-wing zealot. You know, Joe Biden was not my first choice for president. But having said that, I don't think that there's anything wrong with Joe Biden. Now, you guys have your crazy, bizarre QAnon conspiracies about pedophilia and you know, some sort of conspiracy to, you know, start a new world order and all that kind of crap. If that's where your focus is, then have at it. You know, God bless you, because you certainly need his blessings if you're going that way with those kind of conspiracy theories. So Joe Biden was not my first choice, but I do think he's a good man. I think that the man is one who he's like a traditional politician. And I say that in the positive sense, in that he has this this old school political decency about him. And you hear that in what he's saying. You know, he's not out there with the name calling and the pettiness. He's saying quite clearly his goal is to be the president of the United States, not the president of the blue states. He wants to bring the country back together. And how can you be against that? If Donald Trump said he wanted to bring the country together and he actually showed that he wanted to bring the country together, how could you blame him for that? But the man says one thing and does another. And that's undeniable. And when you look at the facts, if you have your eyes open and you choose to look at the facts, yeah, he says he wants, to make America great again. He wants America to be united. But what has he done to show that he wants America to be united when he denies? It's almost as if he denies the very essence of being an American to states and to voters who don't support him. I don't know. I just can't. I can't get behind that. I just can't. Some of you can, and that's your thing, but I can't do it. He's doing these things like saying that if all the votes are not counted today on election day, there's some kind of fraud. That's a sign of terrible and widespread fraud in the electorate if all votes are not counted today. To the best of my knowledge, for 100 years or more, there has never been an election where they have counted all of the votes on election day. It's a process. It takes time. It takes time, especially when you have states who have widespread mail-in ballots and they are not allowed, for whatever reason, I don't know if this is by state decree or if it's because of previous court cases, but some of these states are not even allowed to begin to count mail-in ballots or absentee ballots or the ballots from the military, for example. In most states, they're not, or I don't want to say most, but in some states, they are not even allowed to start counting them until the polls close. Okay? There is no fraud if a state is not finished counting its ballots by the end of election day today. There is no fraud if that is the case. It's quite normal. So I hope those of you who are listening, if you disagree with all this stuff, look it up, do some research. Don't listen to what Donald Trump says blankly. Listen to what he says if you choose, but I challenge you to check up on these things I'm saying. I'm not lying to you. I'm trying not to give, of course, I'm stating my opinion on some things, but I'm also stating some things as fact. Things that you also will know if you choose to do your research. Are you an uneducated and ignorant voter, or are you an educated, thinking voter who has gone through a process of educating yourself, of gaining as much knowledge as you can before you place your vote? Which one are you? And I'm not hating on you if you're not one or you're not the other. I'm not hating on you. I'm putting a challenge out there. I feel like I have to say things like that. I'm not hating on you. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, because I think I've said this before in other podcast episodes. I lost some friends because of one episode 28. Go in on my YouTube channel. It's called the Comin Home Podcast with John Allen. That's Comin, C-O-M-I-N. Not coming. We dropped the G here so we can be a little cool. But the Comin Home Podcast with John Allen. Look it up on YouTube. Look it up on Apple Podcasts. Look it up on Spotify. Find my podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Go in on episode 28 and listen to that. Because of that one episode where I was addressing the political and social turmoil, mostly the social turmoil in the United States at that time. This is around the killing of George Floyd and the protests in the streets, the protest against the protests in the streets, and all of that. I had a podcast episode about all of that stuff, and a lot of people showed a lot of love, but a handful of people showed a little bit of hatred. it's a sad thing that for some people in the United States, a black man who goes with the flow is a good man. But a black man who speaks his mind, a black man who confronts racism and inequality, both systemic and on the individual level, a black man who confronts those things is a black man who needs to be silenced. There are people who think that, and I found that out. Boy, did I find that out after that episode. Episode 28, check it out. I stand by everything I said in that episode. I do. And come what may, if you hate me for it, then God bless you. God bless you. But for those of you who showed me some love, and that episode brought me a lot of love. It opened some doors for me. I made some new friends. I made some new contacts. I made some new partners in my podcast. I got a lot of support. I got a lot of media attention. I stand by everything I said in that episode. I stand by everything I say today. I'm not trying to tell you how to vote, but I am begging you to be an informed voter in this last, in the twilight of Election Day 2020. I'm asking those of you who are listening to be an informed voter. Maybe it's too late, but maybe some of you who are on the edge, some of you who just want to vote the party line, even though you know that is the less than smart thing to do. I don't want to say it's a dumb thing to do, but let's say, to be kind, let's say you may know it's the less than smart thing to do. Maybe some of you heard something I said today, which will make you go in yourself and think a little bit, and you may continue as before, but you may also make a slightly different decision than what you otherwise would have made if you hadn't heard what I said. Now, I don't want to sound arrogant in saying I'm going to change, I'm going to show you the light and I'm going to change you. I don't expect that, but I care about my country. I care about the people in my country, and I'm very concerned. I think it's for me, it's been hard to watch what's been going on in the United States these last 4 years. It's been very difficult to watch. It's not what America should be. I don't think it's what America is. I guess I'm a believer in that old thing about, the bully at school is the one who gets the most attention. Most of the school is full of good kids, but it's the bully who takes up all the time and gets all of the attention. I believe in that. And I think that's kind of what's been happening over these last 4 years. So, yeah, that's where I'm coming from. What else? Yeah, for those of you who are here in Norway, well, actually, those of you back home or around the world, wherever you are, I'm going to post, if I can get my hands on some links of all this stuff that's going on, I'm going to post it. You can find that. You'll find that on my Twitter page, which is at John Allen Pod, JohnAlanPod. You can also find it on my Facebook page, which is at John Allen Loyal Oak. That's JohnAlanLoyalOak, at John Allen Loyal Oak. And it's also the same thing at John Allen Loyal Oak on my Instagram. I'm going to post some links because, boy, oh boy, people want to hear what I have to say from time to time. I was on the radio here in Norway and on TV in Norway today. They came out to the house. They filmed a couple little snippets to put on TV, and they recorded rather this very tired and rusty voice. Spoke a little Norwegian and shared my thoughts with the people on a radio program on NRK here in Norway. So when I get a hold of those links, I will post them on my social media. Tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, Norway time, I'll be on the radio again. I'll post those links. And then on Thursday, your guy, Mr. John Allen, is going to be on national TV. So I got to pull out that old vest and pinstripe shirt and red tie, and they'll put makeup and shine up my my slick head, and I'll be on TV. It's going to be election day related. It's going to be American society related. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to be asking me, but I'm ready. They'll ask me what they want to ask me. We'll talk about what they want to talk about, and and I'll be doing that. So I'll be on TV on Thursday. So when I get those links, I'll post it. For those of you who don't understand Norwegian, it may not do you any good. But for those of you who understand Norwegian, you will be able to both watch and listen. And I hope you gain something from it. So that's what's going on with me. Those are my thoughts at the moment. Boy, this feels good to do a solo episode. I need to get back to doing that. Maybe I should do that regardless. You know, I don't want to, I'm trying to be careful about putting too many episodes out there. It's actually been a bit of a relief. The last couple of 3 weeks, I've only had one episode a week, and that's been kind of nice to step back a little bit, put more thought into the production and content. Of course, there's always a positive thing about, and it's fun to just pump out, 2, 3, maybe 4 episodes a week like I was doing for a while there. I don't know. I'll just take it as it comes. This is a very free-flowing, unplanned, unscripted podcast, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm very comfortable with that format. I like the way I'm doing it. It's, for the most part, stress-free. I'm just having fun. I'm meeting people. I love my guests. I consider every guest that I've had on so far a new friend. There's a lot of good people out there. There's a lot of good people out there in this world. And I'm quite fortunate, truly blessed to be in this situation, to have met some of these people that I've met, and to do things like I'm doing right now, talk and share my thoughts with you guys, share my feelings with you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for your support. If you haven't voted, go do it. What is it? It's 3:48 p.m. on the East Coast in the United States. Get out there. You've still got 3 to 4, maybe 5 hours left before the polls close on the East Coast, and even more time if you're out there on the West Coast. So vote, vote, vote. Let your voice be heard. I tell you, it feels good when you speak and people hear you. It's a good feeling. So speak through your vote. Please do it. You'll be better for it. Our nation will be better for it. Do it, please. Bye, everybody.
Thank you and goodbye.